Hey guys, Resident Loser Jeremy here. I literally just had a band leave and I wanted to talk about, maybe go over some of the mic choices for the drum set that I'm going to use for the next setup, because the next one is pretty much drums and vocals. So both of these sessions were pretty much like radio country. The band that just left finished up, already took all their stuff. Now you can see kind of the mess of mics that are left. I've already gone through all the mics. I know the lines work. I just used them today. I changed out some of the mics that are going to be appropriate for this next upcoming session. I've worked with this artist multiple times in the past. I know what they're going for. They keep coming back. So we're going to kind of go forward with what we already know works. So let's talk about some of the choices we're doing. First, I want to talk about toms. This is the KSM 32. I love this mic for toms. Is it right all the time? No. Typically what you would see is an MD421. Now, as with anything, mic choice is completely subjective. You line up 10 different engineers and they're gonna say 10 different mics that are their favorites. And a lot of that has to do with the actual drum set you're recording or the source in general, the room that it's in, and the actual player and how they hit the stick, what kind of head is on the drum, what's the drum made of, all that stuff plays into effect. But as far as like a mainstay, if you typically walk into a studio, you'll see pretty much this microphone. This is an MD421, notoriously horrible mic clip, and it's gone. I'll never see that thing again. This is a really good option most of the time for drums, especially if you want kind of that vintage sound. If your dad listened to music, he listened to this mic. This is the KSM 32 right here. This mic here, we have a pad and we have a low cut. And you've got two different places you can have a low cut on this mic. You can have it completely off, you can have a pretty steep one, and you can have a not so steep one. I like to leave them off because we're doing drums. Preamps that I'm going to be using, if I'll do anything, it will have the cut on the preamp or even in post. I like to go with these because I feel like they're a little more versatile. I can do a lot more with them. I feel like I get a lot more attack out of this when it's paired with the right head, and typically that's like a Remo Emperor style. Although right now I'm using Evans G2s and I'm really loving them. But this mic just has a ton of body, has that super cool low end you want out of a tom, and it's got the nice attack. For the overheads, I'm gonna be going with a small diaphragm condenser. This is a Sheps MK21. I'm not sure if you can see that. Really, really small mic, really, really cool mic. I love this for overheads or anything intimate that you want to get. When you have them as a spaced pair, you can picture the drum kit here and then slightly tilt them out. Make sure it's 4 feet from the snare. Both of them are 4 feet away and they're 4 feet from each other. That's always a good starting point for me. That always gets a pretty cool wide stereo field and keeps the snare in phase, which is arguably the most important. And if you can start with something that you know is going to be in phase, then you can work your way down the line and either move a mic or hit the phase button and then fix it that way. The snare mic, arguably one of the most important decisions you can make in your entire life. I'm not going to take it out of this clip because it's really hard to get out, but I do love this clip for the 57. And you're probably like, hey Jeremy, what's wrong with your 57? It looks broken. No, that's a Grinelli elbow. You can purchase these aftermarket, or you can just go ahead and buy a 57 with it already installed. It's very easy to do if you know how to solder. Do it. It's super easy to place on a drum set. And I have a sticker on here that you probably can't see. Basically says no phantom power. I took the transformer out of this, and if you want, I can try to find the video that I used and link it on up here, but take the transformer out of your 57. You'll love it. Now you will get a lower output on it, and if you don't have a decent preamp, something like a cloud lifter can kind of make up for that, but you just get a really cool bottom end. The mic seems faster, which all this is absolutely perfect for a snare drum. I feel like snare bottom never gets any love, and I love this mic on snare bottom, the C414. This is the XLS, so not one of the most sought after versions of this mic. This is a solid mic. It sounds great on acoustic guitars. I know some people use it for vocals. I don't particularly like it for vocals, but to each their own. But what I love this thing on snare bottom. It's super sensitive. What I really like is when you get the snares just loose enough and it really starts to react with the rest of the kit. Like even hitting the kick drum and they kind of vibrate just a little bit. It just gives so much more excitement to the entire drum kit when you're going that way. So if you've never tried it, get a C414. Just try it on your snare bottom. Trust me. The old standard SM81 on the hats. Not too much to talk about here. This is a cool mic on just about anything you'll put it on. And honestly, right now it's just on the kit because I needed a hat mic and this is what was left over. So I think hat mics I can make work with just about anything. As most people did, I really loved the way the 1975's record sounded. Lore has it that they used an RE20 on the hats, so I tried it and I liked it. I didn't hate it, but I don't think I'll hate any mic on a hat because it's a hat and you're mostly cutting the bottom end out of it anyway. So cool. This is definitely one of the cooler mics in my collection, I think. This is the R44. Extremely fragile. Shouldn't be holding it like this, but hey, this is for you guys. By the way, give it a like for holding a super fragile mic. If you've never used one of these, and this is actually the back, here's the front for you. If you've never used one of these, try to rent a space that has one. Try to rent one. I don't even know if you can rent one. Get a ribbon mic in general. They're awesome. I love this on just about anything. There's never been anything I put it on that I didn't like it. This is AEA R44. RCA was, I think, the original company that put these out. It's just magical. And it has just an enormous low end and it has a huge range as far as like you can set this pretty far from you and you will still sound very, very close to it. So you can put it a decent distance away from the kick drum, literally just tilt it like this. So the ribbon itself, which is standing right here, isn't getting the full air blast. Man, the low end that you get from this and then the overall kit picture, because it's kind of far back from the kick, really, really cool. And a lot of engineers that come here and use the space, they love this on the kick drum, which you got to be careful because it's fragile, but man, it sounds really cool. Then sticking to that theme of fragile ribbon mics, this is an R88. It's a stereo ribbon mic. You can see kind of the line right here on the top and bottom. This is the center. So you have, maybe I can have my flashlight. If you look in here, you can actually see the ribbon. Basically just a super thin piece of foil suspended in between a magnet. And when that vibrates, it creates an electric field, and then that is what becomes the sound that you're hearing. So ribbon mics are just awesome. Once you use them, you can't stop, I think. But this is one of my favorite drum room mics that I ever used. Really good on acoustic guitar, electric guitar cabs, vocals, just about anything. AEA, check them out. I love them. Not sponsored, just love it. That about does it for the close. So this side of a room, which is about where the drums would sit, let me flip it around. I'll show you the other side here. Welcome to the other side of the room. This is where other players would set keys, drums, whatever we have that day. But if you look up in the corner, at about right there, let me just see if I can zoom in here. Right there. That is a tiny little, I believe it's a PML DC69. And if you look over this side, there's one up there too. Those are actually set to figure 8 pattern on either side of those corners, and they're kind of facing the corner. Neither of those mics are actually pointing towards the drum kit, so that gives you a really, really big room sound for a room that's really not that big. Let's take a walk and I'll show you the last one. So as you've seen me walk through here before, this is the front door. Outside is the outside. And it's dark because it's late. But if we walk into this super echoey room, right there, that is one of my drum mics. And that one up there is arguably one of the cooler drum mics that I have set up, because nobody really notices it when they walk in. Nobody knows it's there. They just know I keep the door propped open while we're recording drums. What you end up with is like the room mic this far out, not getting like a reverby sound as the drum kit's playing. It's actually incredibly reverberant in here. Tile floors, tall ceilings, vaulted ceiling. Pretty explosive sounding, and this is probably getting annoying, so let's move. But in that room, it's so explosive sounding and just gives a ton of life to the drum set. And you can shorten that and kind of bring it closer to the rest of the kit in post. and you just end up with a bigger sound, or you can leave it where it is and it sounds like you're just playing drums in this cool warehouse, and it can sound massive. So I always keep that on, and during sound check, that's one of the things I crank on. They're like, what is that? What reverb are you using? It's like, nah man, that's not reverb, that's my vestibule. How it sounds fancy. How about that? Thumbs up for when your clients leave you donuts. Look at that. Real quick, now that you know all the mics that we're going to use, I wanted to talk just really fast about the preamps. So take a look here. So what we've got mostly for the drums, all of our preamps are on this side of the desk right here. So first off, here up at the top, we got a whole line of APIs, and that's mostly for the shells of the drums, the kicks, all 3 kick mics that we're going to be using. All 3 of our kick mics are going to be going into our API preamps here. The overheads are also going to be API, just because I love the way those Sheps sound on these APIs. There's 2 Vintech, which is kind of like a Neve situation. The Neve situation. That sounds like a horror movie. That's what the R88, that close room stereo ribbon mic is going to. The room far is on this 5 Fish Studios MX5, I think is what it is. Check out 5 Fish Studios. I've never heard anybody else talk about this company, and they deserve to be talked about. Fantastic stuff. Anyway, I said API for these. These are CAPI. That is not API. These are API style preamps. This is CAPI, and these are all VP 28s. Fantastic preamps. And if you know how to solder, make them yourself, go to CAPI. It's amazing. It will change the way you record. They're great, and it's a really cheap way to get an amazing sounding preamp, or a lot of them in my case. And they actually make a rack too. The rack everything is sitting in right here, that's from CAPI. Go pick it up. Not sponsored, just totally geeking out. Down here we have the ISA 828. The room highs, the PMLs that were up there, those are going through the ISA. It's just a really clean pre, nothing really to talk about. Next in line, there are 3 Neve. These are old vintage Brent Averill racked, but actually out of old desks. 1073s and a 1084. Toms are going through the 1073s, and our snare is going through the 1084. Sometimes what I'll do is actually with the toms, I'll split them. So I have one set going through the CAPIs and then another set going through the Neves, so I can kind of decide what I want there, because sometimes it's cool to have the shells differently. But I pretty much always have the snare going through the 1084, which is awesome. And then sometimes a distressor, which is over here. If you look below this, there's the Digimax, which is kind of handling all of our talkbacks and stuff. You want to see the converters. We never really talk about the converters, but we're all Burl. Everything's pretty much Burl. If you guys want to hear more about that, I can talk about that, but that's going down a rabbit hole for sure. Anyway, I wanted to talk about what I was doing, setting stuff up. If you guys want to know more about this stuff, let me know. I'm happy to talk about it. I love to geek out like this. Let me know down in the comments if that's something you want to hear. One of the next videos I'd love to do is kind of my approach to how I will tune and why I tune drums the way I do. Not that there's anything wrong with using drum samples, but when you're paying to come to a space like this, you don't want to have the necessity of using a drum sample if you don't have to. The goal is to get as good a drum sound as you can from the get-go with what you have. Maybe then the next one we'll talk about tuning a snare drum, tuning toms, tuning a kick drum, kind of what those pitch areas might be and why, depending on the genre you're doing and depending on what you want out of that mix. So let me know in the comments if that's what you guys want. Give me a thumbs up if you like what we're doing. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button down there. Hit the bell if you want to be notified every time I put out a video. Anyway guys, President Loser Jeremy again. I'll see you next time.